Hey everyone, Vibif here with my latest creation, the Luma 64. This is your basic run-of-the-mill Nintendo 64 portable. So why do I call it the Luma 64? Well, actually I'm going to get to that in a minute, but right now I'm going to show off some of its features. This is actually the very first portable that I started working on about 5 years ago. It's not the first portable I finished, but just the first one that I started working on. So I'm glad to have this one completely done under my belt. So, you know, it's great to finally be able to move on to other projects. So let's take a look at the portable. As you can see right here, it has the standard Nintendo 64 controls, the action button, start button, D-pad, and joystick. Underneath the hood we have a 5-inch widescreen. This is just your basic backup monitor from eBay or Amazon, what have you. It's a wide screen, but I've actually got it permanently scaled down to 4:3 aspect ratio, and that's just a personal preference. I do not like my games being stretched out if they're intended to be in standard aspect ratio. On the back of the portable we have the R button. The Z button is up on top, and that's because when you're holding it with the joystick, you're going to be using the Z button, and then with the D-pad, the L button is going to be on the bottom. We have our standard cartridge slot right here, built in. Right speaker, left speaker. Actually, if you hold it this way, it makes a little bit more sense. We've got our power switch, and this is a LOB64, LOB64 communications jack. This was named after a modder by the name of Life of Brian. And no, it is not an Ethernet jack. This cannot connect to the internet. What this is it's intended for using multiplayer between two different portables that have LOB64 jacks implemented. So if I were to find somebody else with a Nintendo 64 portable with LOB64 jack, I should be able to play multiplayer games with them. On the bottom of the portable, we just have our basics, the power jack, the headphone jack, and the volume wheel. And we also have exhaust port. Well, actually, this is air intake vent on the right-hand side, and an exhaust port on the left for air ventilation. So let's go ahead and power it on.
It's me, Mario. Hello. Okie dokie. Yeah. Yippee!
So right now I just want to show off that the controls do work. All the C buttons are mapped in. B button, you've seen the A, it jumps. R button for changing the camera. Z button for crouching. And ground pounding. So you can see the controls work perfectly fine. I just wanted to show you another game quick. This is Excitebike 64. Maybe it's Excitebike 64. Let's try this again. There we go. So the reason I wanted to fire this up is just so you can see that it does have a Nintendo 64 expansion pack inserted. And this game is loud. As you can clearly tell, I was going to crank up the audio amp just so you can see how loud it is, or hear how loud it is. So it's pretty ridiculously loud. And this is just your basic MP3 amplifier speaker combination in here, really pumping out the sound. So now that you've had a quick overview of it, let's go take a look at some of the other features. As I mentioned previously, the LOB64 port is a special extension port designed for Nintendo 64 portables, and The purpose of the Lob 64 port is to enable multiplayer gaming between two Nintendo 64 portables that contain Lob 64 jacks. It can also be used for audio-video output. And I'm going to show you that functioning using this cobbled together Lob 64 output adapter. It's just basically one end of a Ethernet jack or Ethernet cable wired up to the AV output of a Nintendo 64 system. So I will connect that into the Lob 64 port. Connect that to the standard AV cable for a Nintendo 64 and power on. And last but not least, the reason for the Luma 64's name. It glows in the dark. Even more so underneath a black light. So that is my glow-in-the-dark Nintendo 64 portable, the Luma 64. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching.